I'm hoping you're all able to both see my presentation and to hear me. Is that correct?
Yes, we can see and hear your presentation.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for having me today. It's great to meet you. I am going to share with you today some of the resources that we make available at Google Cloud for researchers. If you are a researcher, you're an undergrad or a PhD student or a faculty member, and you are conducting research with large amounts of data, you may be wondering how the cloud can help you. And so I'm here to share some of the resources you might want to check out as you either begin or continue on that journey. And I'll take you through some of what we can help in your own cloud research work. So I'll take you through an intro of me, brief intro, share with you some opportunities for learning and how you might want to actually build your own knowledge on what the cloud can do for research. I'll then take you to learning more about some credits we offer. These are credits that can be used to seed your cloud journey and get started in the cloud without having to open up your own wallet. And then talk through some of the communities we have where researchers are meeting and working together and talking about how they're using cloud for their research, which might be helpful for you all. And then I'll make sure we have some time for questions at the end. So I work at Google Cloud. I've been here for almost 3 years. And a large part of my role is focusing on how we support researchers in their work. So I've had the pleasure of working with a number of researchers over the past few years to help them use Google Cloud for their research. And I'm excited to share that with you all today. Feel free to contact me. My email address is here. I'm an open book. You're welcome to email me with any questions if you have questions after this session, or if you want to know more about how to use Google Cloud for research, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So everything I'm going to share today is publicly available resources. It's all out there. So what I would actually ask you all to do, I know this is a bit non-traditional, is to actually open up this link in a tab on your computer or on your phone or however you're watching this, because I want you to go check out this page after we finish talking. So open up this link so you have it. Thank you, Elia, for putting that in the chat. I know it's non-traditional to tell people to look at something else while you're presenting, but I'll bring your attention back now to the presentation, but I want you to have this available and be a resource whenever you need it. Everything I'm going to share today can be found through this page, so keep it handy. Before I go any further, is it possible for folks to share in the chat, and maybe the OmicsLogic folks can read out? I'd love to just get a sense of who's in the room. And so if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, if you're an undergraduate student or a graduate student or a PhD student or a faculty member or an industry, work coming from industry, it would be fantastic if you'd share those in the chat, or you can share them. You might be able to share them with me now that I'm presenter. I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. It will help me tailor the presentation a little bit. Just give everybody a second. Okay, great. I'm seeing bioinformatics graduate student, faculty member, industry, master's in molecular and cell biology, teaching assistant professor, focusing on, okay, great. So we have a really great mix of folks in the room. Thank you. It's helpful for me to understand that. And Elia's saying from YouTube, there's some undergraduate students. Great. Awesome. Okay, let's move along. So first up, let's talk a little bit about learning. And I just want to make sure I can see here what you all are seeing. Let's see. I think I can see that. All right, let's keep going. So I mentioned that we're going to start by talking a little bit about learning. And my thinking here is that there's probably a mix of backgrounds in the room on your level of Google Cloud knowledge or understanding. So we know that academic researchers and researchers in general are facing a world of constant change, new tools emerging all the time. Some of you on this call might already use Google Cloud for your research. Some of you may be new to it. And so we know that researchers don't always want to spend a ton of time maybe doing the same like training and certifications that an IT person would do. You have different needs. So recently, we've done a lot more tailoring of our training offerings so that the training is actually very researcher specific and even domain specific. And I'll show you those in a moment. So we've created some new training pathways and resources for researchers specifically. Whether you're a researcher who wants to build a genomics pipeline or run a Monte Carlo simulation or create an auto-scaling HPC cluster with Slurm or host Jupyter notebooks, or whether you've never heard of any of those things and you're looking forward to learning, we have the training resources to help you do that. Moving into our Google Cloud Skills Boost, it's really our home base for all training offerings at Google Cloud. You'll find everything you need here. And students and IT admins actually get an additional bonus, as well as faculty members. Anybody out there can have 30 free days of access to Google Cloud Skills Boost. And students and IT admins get additional credits, and as well as faculty members to distribute in their courses. And then I mentioned that we have these very researcher-specific training paths. I know this may be small and hard to see, but the paths here are called out. For example, if you are a genomics researcher, we recommend those training blocks on the right-hand column in line with genomics. So again, you'll find this all on that same page I had you open up under the section for researchers. Take a look at what's available in your domain and see if there's something that will help you understand how Google Cloud may support your research. For faculty who are looking to bring Google Cloud into the classroom, let's say for your undergraduate students, we want to make it very easy for you to teach Google Cloud to your students. So we've offered a free curriculum for faculty. You're able to access this, again, on that same page I asked you to pull up under faculty. It's a 10-module, 40-hour curriculum. You do not have to do all of that. If you want to take one module to integrate into your semester, I encourage you to take a look at this option so that you can use these lesson plans and use this content rather than having to come up with it on your own. And then one other thing I'll share, this isn't really learning, but I wasn't sure where to mention this in the presentation. I did want to share, we offer guidance for people who are applying for funding for cloud. So you may have had the experience of applying for funding from the NIH or the NSF for cloud. And in particular, the NSF has a process called the supplementary document. And so we have this resource available here. I will pop this link in the chat. This is a resource that you may want to bookmark if you're planning to apply to funding from the NSF anytime in the coming year. This will help you, give you some of the basics on how you might propose for funding for cloud. Happy to talk more about that or provide more hands-on support if you need it. And again, you have your email, my email. Let's see, I put that in the wrong chat. Here we go. All right, there you have it. All right, so now let's say you've gone through some of those learning experiences and you're starting to feel like, okay, cloud would be very useful for my research. I'd love to use it. One way to get started is through credits. We offer credits for researchers and also for classroom use. This isn't meant to be long-term funding. This is meant to help you get started and seed your research on Google Cloud. So again, using that same link I shared with you, if you go to the researchers section, you'll find access for this. Researchers are actually eligible for up to $5,000 in credits to use on Google Cloud. So the other credits I was talking about were for our training platform. This is to actually build in the cloud. And those applications are reviewed on an ongoing basis. There's no deadline, there's no time period. You can apply anytime, and you can apply for any topic. It's topic agnostic. And then for classroom use, if you're a faculty member who'd like to teach cloud to students, then there's also an opportunity to get a smaller credit for handout on a student basis, let's say as part of Google Cloud Computing Foundations course. So we want to make it accessible to get started, and these are some of the resources we have for that. So moving into communities, we offer a couple of different ways for researchers to connect with one another. We know that researchers are often learning the most from one another, far more than they can learn from anyone else. And so we have a couple of communities that help people connect on that level. So the two communities I'll highlight here, one is we have a researcher community for anybody who gets those research credits through Google Cloud, that up to $5,000 credit mark. They're immediately added to a community and a forum where people can ask advice from one another, find out if there's someone facing a problem that they've faced, and get advice from their fellow research peers about how they're using Google Cloud. So highly recommend that as a way to connect with others and with peers. We also have a research innovators community, and this is, it's almost folks who are really active users who are using Google Cloud quite a lot for their work. We had a 2021 cohort, and the 2022 cohort, I believe, was just selected. So we're not currently accepting applications. But again, if you go back to that link I gave at the beginning and go to the researchers section, you can sign up to be notified when applications do reopen, if that's something you think you'd be interested in. It's really a tight-knit cohort. They work really closely together. There are other opportunities for professional development and other benefits to be part of presentations and conferences. So it's a great way to get additional opportunities out in the world. And as part of that, I'll just share two examples from the 2021 Research Innovators cohort, which I think it's always helpful to hear examples of how people are actually doing this. This first cohort, 2021, had 33 Google Cloud Research Innovators. They were across 30 institutions and 8 countries in both industry and academia, and across all disciplines. So one example, one of the research innovators was Dr. Tapio Schneider, who's a senior research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. And his team has this product called the Climate Machine. It leverages recent advances in computational and data science to learn directly from Earth observations from space and the ground. And it helps harness huge amounts of data, much larger quantities than were accessed before, to create much better accuracy for predictions of droughts and heat waves and rainfall extremes. So he shared his learnings, how he was using cloud with this Research Innovators group, who also learned in turn from him. And then just one more story to share with you. Dr. Theodora Saz, who was also in the 2021 cohort, she's a computational scientist at the University of Chicago. She is actually using Google Cloud Solutions to identify and categorize images and analyze images in children's books as a way to understand what kinds of representation children are getting. So she uses AutoML, which has machine learning capabilities that can identify and categorize images. And they are using that to understand how and what kind of messages are children getting through books today. So really interesting, really broad range of topics. Really encourage taking a look at those communities if there would be of interest to you. So I'll pause here. There are more resources beyond what I've shared today. If you keep digging into that site, I'm also happy to meet or chat with anybody. If you'd like to email me, again, my email address, I'll pop it here in the chat. You feel free to reach out to me. And with that, I'll pause and take any questions you might have about Google Cloud for research.
Thank you very much, Alice. That was a great talk. All right, so some questions. First off, do you have any advice for those who want to get involved with Google or Google Cloud? Like, are there any qualifications that you say stand above the rest?
That's a great question. I think there are homes for many different types of people from so many different types of backgrounds and experiences at Google. I think my advice is pursue what you're interested in, and bring that interest and passion to anything you interview for, whether that's at Google or elsewhere. I think if you're specifically asking about, is there anything qualifications wise you're looking for research credits or anything like that? For in terms of our programs, we have a really broad range of research projects that we accommodate through the Google Cloud research credits. So there's not a lot of particular requirements. I'll pop the link for that. And you can take a look. It actually lays out some of the eligibility requirements. So let me send that through. You guys can take a look.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Another question, what kind of resources do the cloud credits cover?
So the cloud credits, let's say you apply through that link I just sent in the chat, and you are granted $5,000 in research credits. You'll be able to use that on Google Cloud Console for any product that you need. So there's no limitations. It's not like you can only use it for BigQuery, or only use it for one or another product. It gives you access to the suite of Google Cloud Platform solutions.
Great, thank you. Another question, can working professionals try out Google Cloud and get credits?
So working professionals should go through our traditional Google Cloud free trial. And I can pull up the link for that. There is a free tier. Let me pull that for you. The offering that I put in the chat before is really targeted at researchers and with the knowledge that researchers often may need a jump start in terms of accessing the cloud. But those who are working for professionals, anybody can get $300 in free credits to get started. And actually, that will take you pretty far. That will be enough to help you figure out if this is going to be useful for you. And at that point, you can figure out, okay, how will I be able to use this? And is this something that I want to pursue?
Great, thank you. Another question, which universities are now using Google Cloud for genomics specifically, if you know?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head, but two other colleagues of mine are going to be presenting from Google Cloud later on in this symposium, and especially my colleague Jesus will be able to tell some really rich stories from universities that are using genomics. He actually works much more closely with customers and helping them access and use Google Cloud. But one thing I will pull up for you. I know I'm sending you guys a lot of links. If you give me just a second, I'll share with you a couple of different case studies from researchers. It might take me a second to get that together. And I also had a question in the chat sent to me via direct message. Do you allow training facilitators who run bioinformatics events that train researchers to apply for GCP credits for those events? So I think right now, the way that you can get GCP credits to distribute is if you are a faculty member or an IT staff member at a university or a researcher. If you're outside of that domain and you're not actually working for a university, you'll probably want to either access 30 free days of Google Cloud Skills Boost, or figure out if there's another way to do that. Reach out to me and we can figure out via email if there's a good way to help you. But yeah, typically the resources I was presenting today are typically designated for university affiliated folks.
Great. Well, thank you again for speaking.